The red sun hung low in the purple sky of Veltar, casting long shadows across the dying world. Commander Zelenara stood at the observation deck of the last functioning tower, watching her people struggle in the streets below, their once bright cities now crumbled like old bones. The Great Plague had taken most of them, and those who remained grew weaker each day. Zelenara touched the communication panel with her long, pale fingers. The metal felt cold against her skin. She had made a choice that would either save her people or doom them forever. 3 days ago, she had sent a message into the darkness of space, aimed at a world most aliens feared to even speak about Earth. The Death World. Her council had called her mad. Elder Morden had collapsed when she told them what she planned to do. The other commanders had begged her to reconsider. But what choice did they have? Their medicine could not stop the plague. Their ships were failing. Their sun grew more unstable each day, sending deadly waves of energy that cooked everything it touched. The humans were their last hope, even if those same humans might kill them all. Far across the galaxy, Lieutenant Jake Morrison sat in the communication center of Earth's orbital defense station. The night shift was usually quiet, but something had been bothering him for hours. A strange signal kept appearing on his screens, weak but persistent. It came from somewhere beyond the outer rim, from a part of space where no human had ever traveled. "Lisa, take a look at this," Jake called to communications specialist Lisa Parker, who was drinking coffee at the next station. Lisa walked over, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. She looked at Jake's screen and frowned. "That's weird. It's definitely not one of ours. The pattern looks almost like a distress call, but the language is completely unknown." Jake adjusted the signal filters, trying to clean up the transmission. Slowly, words began to form on the screen. Not human words, but the computer was starting to translate them. "Help us," the message said. "We are dying. Our world burns. Our people fade. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. We know you are strong. We know you are feared. But we have nothing left to lose. We are the Zephyrians of Veltar. We call to Earth." Lisa's coffee cup slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. "Jake, this is impossible. How do they know about us? How do they know our planet's name?" Jake's heart was racing. First contact with an alien species was supposed to happen through official channels, with diplomats and scientists and military leaders, not through 2 junior officers on the night shift. "We need to get Captain Bennett, right now." Captain Roy Bennett arrived at the communication center within 10 minutes, still buttoning his uniform jacket. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes, the sort of person who made others feel safe just by being in the room. Behind him came Dr. Amy Richardson, the station's chief medical officer, and chief engineer Pete Collins. "Show me what you've got," Bennett said. Jake played the message again. The alien words filled the room, desperate and pleading. The translation scrolled across the screen, telling a story of a dying world and a people with no hope left. Dr. Richardson leaned forward, studying the signal data. "The message is definitely genuine. Look at these energy patterns. This isn't some kind of trick or test. Whoever sent this is using a lot of power, probably more than they can afford to waste." "But how do they know about us?" Pete asked. "Earth isn't exactly advertising itself to the galaxy." Bennett was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Finally he spoke. "There are stories, rumors that spread through space. Pirates, traitors, mercenaries. They talk about a world where the gravity is too strong, where the weather can kill you, where the animals hunt in packs and the plants are poisonous. They call it a death world, and they say the creatures that live there are the most dangerous in the galaxy." "Us," Lisa said quietly. "Us," Bennett agreed. "And now someone is so desperate that they're willing to ask the monsters for help." The message played again, and this time they listened to every word. The Zephyrians described their plague, their failing technology, their dying sun. They gave coordinates to their world and promised to share everything they had if anyone would come to their aid. "Sir," Jake said, "what do we do?" Bennett looked around the room at his people. These were good humans, the kind who joined the space service to explore and help others. He could see the same thought in all their eyes. Someone was asking for help, and humans didn't walk away from that. "We contact Admiral Helen Cross," Bennett said, "and we volunteer." The call to Earth took 3 hours to connect through the deep space communication network. Admiral Cross appeared on the screen in her office, surrounded by maps of human space and reports from dozens of worlds. She was a small woman with silver hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Captain Bennett," she said, "I've read your initial report. You want to take a ship to an unknown world to help an alien species we've never met before." "Yes, ma'am." "A species that somehow knows about Earth and calls us Deathworlders." "Yes, ma'am." Admiral Cross was quiet for a moment. "Captain, you understand that this could be a trap. These aliens might be planning to attack us. They might be studying us, trying to find our weaknesses." "I understand, Admiral, but they're dying. Their message, their signal patterns, everything about this says they're telling the truth. They need help, and we're the only ones they think can provide it. And if you're wrong, if this goes badly..." Bennett thought about the desperate words in the alien message, about a people watching their world die around them. "Admiral, if we're wrong, then we tried to help someone who needed it. If we're right, then we save an entire species. Either way, we do what humans do." Admiral Cross smiled slightly. "What humans do? Yes, I suppose that's exactly what this is." She paused, then nodded. "Very well, Captain. You have authorization for a rescue mission. Take the U.S. Horizon and a volunteer crew. But Bennett?" "Yes, ma'am?" "Be careful out there. The galaxy might call us Deathworlders, but that doesn't mean we're immortal." The communication ended, and Bennett turned to his team. "Well, people, it looks like we're going to make first contact with an alien species. Any volunteers?" Every hand in the room went up. The U.S. Horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Veltar system. Captain Bennett stood on the bridge, looking at the main screen with growing horror. The system's sun flickered and pulsed like a dying light bulb, sending waves of deadly energy in all directions. The planet itself looked like a wound in space, its surface glowing red and orange where it should have been blue and green. "My God," whispered Dr. Amy Richardson, standing beside him. "How is anything still alive down there?" Jake Morrison worked at his communication station, trying to reach the planet's surface. "I'm picking up signals, Captain. Weak ones, but they're definitely there. Someone is still broadcasting." "Put it through," Bennett ordered. The alien voice that filled the bridge was tired and weak, but it spoke in careful English. "Human ship, this is Commander Zelenara of Veltar. We see you on our screens. We cannot believe you actually came." Bennett stepped forward. "Commander Zelenara, this is Captain Roy Bennett of the Earthship Horizon. We received your message and came to help. What is your situation?" There was a long pause. When Zelenara spoke again, her voice shook. "Captain Bennett, we are dying. Our cities are empty. Our people hide underground, but even there the plague finds us. We have perhaps 3,000 left from a population of 50 million. Dr. Richardson took the communication unit from Bennett. "Commander, this is Dr. Amy Richardson. I'm a medical officer. Can you tell me about this plague? What are the symptoms?" "Dr. Richardson," Zelenara said, and there was hope in her voice now. "The plague, it dissolves our cells from the inside. It started 6 months ago in our oldest cities. We thought it was a disease, but our medicine cannot stop it. It spreads through the air, through water, through everything. We need to come down to your planet," Richardson said. "I need to see samples, talk to your scientists. understand what we're dealing with. Doctor, you cannot come here. The plague will kill you too. Bennett took the communication unit back. Commander, we're humans. We come from a death world. We're harder to kill than you might think. 2 hours later, a small shuttle landed in what had once been Veltar's capital city. The buildings around the landing pad were empty shells, their walls covered in a strange black substance that seemed to move when no one was looking at it. The air itself felt wrong, thick and heavy with an oily smell. Captain Bennett, Dr. Richardson, Chief Engineer Pete Collins, and Marine Commander Troy Adams stepped out of the shuttle wearing full protective suits. Their sensors were going crazy, detecting energy patterns they had never seen before. Commander Zelenara met them at the landing pad. She was tall and thin, with pale skin that seemed to glow in the dim light. Her people looked like humans might look if they had been stretched in native glass. She moved carefully, as if every step caused her pain. "Captain Bennett," she said, and her voice was different in person, musical but sad. "You are smaller than we expected. The story said that Deathworlders were giants." "The stories were wrong about a lot of things," Bennett replied. "But they were right about one thing. We're here to help." Zelenara led them through the empty streets to an underground facility where the last Zephyrian scientists worked desperately to find a cure. Dr. Richardson immediately went to work with a scientist named Kethmera, studying samples of the plague under powerful microscopes. What they found made no sense. "These aren't biological organisms," Richardson told Bennett after an hour of study. "They're machines. Tiny machines, smaller than cells, but definitely artificial." Kethmera nodded sadly. "We discovered this 3 days ago. They are nanits, ancient war machines. We found their source in the ruins of our oldest city. They have been sleeping for thousands of years, but something woke them up." "What woke them up?" Pete asked, studying the nanits on his scanner. "We do not know. But they are programmed to destroy us. They recognize our genetic code and attack it specifically. They were designed to kill Zephyrians." Troy Adams, who had been standing guard, spoke up. "This was a weapon. Someone used these things against your people a long time ago, and now they've reactivated. But who would do such a thing?" Zelenara asked. Dr. Richardson was still studying the nanits when something strange happened. Her scanner began beeping frantically. "That's odd. The nanits are reacting to something." She looked around the room, then at her human companions. "They're reacting to us." "What do you mean?" Bennett asked. "They're becoming more active. Look at this." Richardson showed them her screen. The nanits, which had been moving slowly through the Zephyrian tissue samples, were now moving faster and more aggressively. "Our presence is making them work harder." Kethmera checked his own instruments and made a sound of distress. "Dr. Richardson is correct. The nanits are increasing their activity by 40%. They are killing the tissue samples faster now." "We need to leave," Adams said immediately. "If we're making things worse just by being here." "Wait," Richardson said, studying the data more carefully. "There's something else. The nanits aren't just reacting to us randomly. They're trying to scan us to analyze our genetic code. But they can't figure out what we are." She looked up at the others with excitement in her eyes. "I think they're programmed to attack specific species, but they don't know how to classify humans. We're confusing them." "Is that good or bad?" Bennett asked. "I'm not sure yet. Pete, can you do a deep scan of these nanits? I want to know everything about how they work." Pete set up his equipment and began a detailed analysis. What he found changed everything. "Captain, these nanits have a control system. They're not just random killers. They follow specific programming, and that programming includes identification codes for their creators." "Meaning?" "Meaning whoever built these things had to program them not to attack their own people. There's a genetic signature in the nanite programming that tells them who is safe and who is a target. Dr. Richardson was already thinking ahead. If we could figure out that genetic signature, maybe we could modify it. Make the nanites think the Zephyrians are their creators instead of their targets. Is that possible? Zelenara asked, and for the first time since they had arrived, there was real hope in her voice. Maybe, but first we need to understand who originally built these things and why they wanted to kill your people. Kethmara brought up historical records on his computer. There are legends of an ancient race called the Hegemony. They conquered many worlds before they disappeared. Perhaps they built these weapons. If that's true, then these nanites might be programmed to kill anyone who isn't Hegemony, Richardson said. But the Hegemony has been gone for thousands of years. Pete's scanner suddenly started screaming warnings. Captain, we have a problem. My deep scan just activated something. The nanites are sending out some kind of signal. What kind of signal? I don't know, but it's powerful and it's aimed at deep space. High above Veltar, automated systems that had slept for 10,000 years began to wake up. Ancient ships stirred in the darkness between stars, receiving a signal they had waited millennia to hear. The signal told them that someone was interfering with their weapon. Someone was trying to stop their great cleansing. The Hegemony fleet began to move toward Veltar, ready to finish what they had started so long ago. Dr. Amy Richardson had not slept in 36 hours. Her eyes burned as she stared at the computer screen, watching nanites move through tissue samples like tiny metal sharks. Coffee cups and food containers covered her workspace in the underground laboratory. Beside her, the Zephyrian scientist Kethmara looked just as exhausted, his pale skin almost transparent from stress. There, Richardson said, pointing at the screen. Do you see that pattern? Kethmara leaned closer. The nanites pause when they encounter certain protein structures, but only for a few seconds. Exactly. They're checking something. Running a comparison against their programming. Richardson pulled up another screen showing human DNA patterns. Now look at this. When I introduced human genetic material to the sample, the nanites became confused. They couldn't decide whether to attack or retreat. But why would they react to human genetics at all? Kethmara asked. Your species is from the other side of the galaxy. Richardson was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then her eyes went wide. Kethmara, what if humans and the Hegemony share some common genetic markers? What if we evolved from the same basic template? That would mean the nanites think we might be descendants of their creators. They're programmed not to attack the Hegemony, so they hesitate when they encounter us. Captain Bennett entered the laboratory, followed by Chief Engineer Pete Collins. Both men looked grim. Doctor, we have a problem, Bennett said. Our long-range sensors are picking up something big headed this way. Multiple ships, ancient design, and they're not responding to our communications. The Hegemony fleet, Kethmara whispered. The signal we accidentally sent must have awakened them. Pete nodded. They'll be here in 18 hours. And Doctor, these aren't normal ships. Each one is the size of a small moon. Our weapons won't even scratch them. Richardson stood up quickly, her mind racing. We might not need weapons. Pete, can you modify the Zephyrian evacuation ships? Depends on what you want me to do with them. I need you to install human genetic scanners in their life support systems. But more than that, I need you to modify the systems to actually alter Zephyrian DNA. Bennett stared at her. Amy, what are you suggesting? Gene therapy. If we can embed human genetic markers into Zephyrian DNA, the nanites might stop attacking them. But it's more than that. We might be able to make them immune to the nanites completely. Kethmara made a sound of distress. Dr. Richardson, you are talking about changing what we are, making us into something else. I'm talking about keeping you alive, Richardson replied firmly. But I won't lie to you. The process will change you. You'll become stronger, more aggressive, better able to survive harsh conditions. More like humans. More like Deathworlders, Cathmara said quietly. Yes, Commander Zelenara arrived as they were discussing the details. She looked even weaker than before, the nanits in the air slowly killing her with every breath. What are our options? She asked simply. Richardson explained the gene therapy plan. The risks were enormous. The treatment might kill the Zephyrians instead of saving them. Even if it worked, they would be fundamentally changed as a species. They would lose their gentle nature and gain human-like aggression and survival instincts. And if we do nothing? Zelenara asked. You all die, Bennett said. Either from the nanits or from the hegemony fleet when it arrives. Zelenara was quiet for a long time. Finally she spoke. How many people can we save with this treatment? If Pete can modify enough ships, maybe 2,000, Richardson said. We'll have to choose who gets the treatment first. Choose our strongest people. Our scientists, our engineers, our pilots, people who can help rebuild somewhere else. Zelenara's voice was steady, but tears ran down her face. And Commander Zelenara volunteers to be the first test subject. Absolutely not, Bennett said. We don't know if this will work. We could kill you. Captain Bennett, I am dying anyway. We are all dying. If this treatment fails, at least we will know. If it works, maybe some of my people will survive. Richardson. Set up the gene therapy equipment in the laboratory's medical bay. The process was complex, requiring careful introduction of human genetic material into Zephyrian cells while suppressing their immune response. She had never attempted anything like this before. Zelenara lay on the medical table, connected to monitors that tracked her vital signs. Doctor, if this goes wrong, promise me you will still try to save my people. It's not going to go wrong, Richardson said, but her hands shook as she activated the treatment. The process took 4 hours. Zelenara's body temperature rose and fell dramatically. Her heart stopped twice, requiring emergency resuscitation. But slowly, incredibly, the treatment began to work. Her genetic structure shifted, incorporating human markers while maintaining her basic Zephyrian form. When she finally woke up, Zelenara was different. Her pale skin had gained a slight color. Her movements were quicker, more decisive. When she spoke, her voice carried new strength. I feel strange, she said, sitting up on the medical table, stronger and hungry. Very hungry. Richardson ran tests immediately. The results were remarkable. Zelenara's modified cells completely resisted the nanits. Her body was processing oxygen more efficiently. Her muscle density had increased by 30%. Most surprisingly, when they exposed her to samples of the plague, the nanits ignored her completely. It worked, Richardson breathed. The nanits think you're hegemony now. But there were other changes too. Zelenara's psychological tests showed increased aggression, stronger protective instincts, and a new willingness to take risks. She was still recognizably herself, but something fundamental had shifted in her nature. I understand now why the galaxy fears humans, she said quietly. This drive to survive, to fight, to protect others even at cost to yourself, it burns inside me now. Pete had been working frantically to modify the Zephyrian ships. With help from Zephyrian engineers, he managed to convert 12 vessels to perform the gene therapy process during flight. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. The evacuation began immediately. Zephyrians lined up by the hundreds, knowing they faced a choice between certain death and uncertain transformation. Many were afraid, but they had run out of other options. As the first ship launched with 200 modified Zephyrians aboard, their long-range sensors detected the hegemony fleet dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the system's edge. The ancient ships were massive beyond imagination, bristling with weapons that could crack planets in half. 12 ships, Bennett said, watching the sensor readings. and they're not interested in talking. The hegemony vessels began moving toward Veltar with cold mechanical purpose. Their artificial intelligence systems had detected the interference with their nanite weapon and identified the source. They would eliminate all life in the system to ensure their great cleansing continued uninterrupted. "How many people do we have off-planet?" Bennett asked. "About 800 so far," Pete replied. "We need at least 6 more hours to evacuate. Everyone who can be saved. We don't have 6 hours. Those ships will be in weapons range in 2 hours." Zelenara, now serving as liaison between the humans and her people, stepped forward. "Captain Bennett, my modified people and I will help. You fight. We are no longer the peaceful Zephyrians who sent that first message. We are something new now, and we will not run from these ancient killers." Bennett looked at her with respect. The gene therapy had indeed changed the Zephyrians, but it had also given them something they desperately needed: the will to fight. "For their survival. Then we make our stand here," he said. "Human and Zephyrian together. Let's show these hegemony machines what Deathworlders really are." The U's horizon hung in space between the fleeing Zephyrian ships and the approaching hegemony fleet. Captain Bennett stood on the bridge, watching 12 ancient dreadnoughts grow larger on his screens. Each enemy ship was 10 times the size of his vessel, covered in weapons that had been destroying worlds when humans were still learning to make fire. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the lead hegemony ship," Jake Morrison reported from his communication station. "Put it through." The voice that filled the bridge was cold and mechanical, without any trace of emotion. "Organic contamination detected. Interference with cleansing protocol confirmed. All biological matter in this system will be terminated. Surrender is not acceptable. Resistance is futile." Bennett looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were good people who had volunteered to help strangers, and now they faced an enemy that wanted to kill every living thing in the system. "Open a channel to all ships," he ordered. "Channel open, sir. This is Captain Bennett to all vessels. The hegemony ships are not interested in negotiation. They want to kill everything alive in this system. We have 2 choices, run or fight. I'm not running. Any ship that wants to leave, go now. No one will think less of you. Not a single ship moved." "Understood," Bennett said. "All ships, prepare for combat. Let's show these machines what happens when they threaten innocent people." The battle began as the hegemony ships opened fire with weapons that turned space itself into a killing field. Beams of pure energy lanced out, each one capable of destroying a city. The human and Zephyrian ships scattered, using their smaller size and greater speed to avoid the massive weapons. Marine Commander Troy Adams led the first boarding party. His idea was simple but crazy. If the hegemony ships were controlled by artificial intelligence, then maybe they could be disabled from the inside. He and 20 Marines launched in small shuttles, racing toward the nearest enemy vessel while its weapons tracked larger targets. "Troy, this is insane," Dr. Richardson said over the communication system. "Those ships are probably full of defenses." "Doctor, insane is what humans do best," Adams replied, guiding his shuttle toward an opening in the hegemony ship's hull. "Besides, we've got backup now." The backup he mentioned was Commander Zelenara and 50 modified Zephyrians who had volunteered to join the boarding parties. The gene therapy had changed them in ways that made them almost as tough as humans, but they still retained their natural intelligence and grace. Adams's shuttle crashed through the hull of the hegemony ship and into a corridor filled with strange blue light. The Marines poured out, their weapons ready, but what they found was not what they expected. The ship was empty of crew. Instead, it was filled with machines that moved through the corridors like metal spiders, maintaining systems that had run automatically for thousands of years. The walls themselves seemed alive, covered in circuits and displays that showed the ship's deadly purpose. "The whole ship is one big computer," Adams reported. And it's really angry about us being here. Security systems activated throughout the ship. Laser turrets dropped from the ceiling, energy barriers sealed off corridors, and mechanical defenders swarmed toward the intruders. But the Marines had trained for hostile environments, and the modified Zephyrians proved to be incredibly effective. Fighters, Zelenara moved through the ship's corridors like a deadly ghost, her enhanced reflexes allowing her to dodge laser fire while her improved strength let her tear through metal barriers with her bare hands. The other modified Zephyrians followed her lead, fighting with a combination of human aggression and Zephyrian intelligence. The ship's central computer is 3 levels down, Zelenara reported. But there are hundreds of defenders between us. And it. Then we go through them, Adam said, leading his Marines deeper into the ship. Meanwhile, the space battle raged around them. The U's Horizon and the Zephyrian ships fought desperately against impossible odds. Captain Bennett ordered his ship to ram one of the hegemony vessels, but the enemy's shields were too strong. The impact barely scratched the ancient hull. "Sir, we're losing," reported Pete Collins from his engineering station. "Their weapons are too powerful, and our ships are taking heavy damage." Bennett watched 3 Zephyrian evacuation ships explode, under enemy fire, taking hundreds of innocent people with them. His anger burned cold and focused. "Jake, get me a communication channel to the hegemony fleet." "Channel open, sir." "This is Captain Roy Bennett of Earth to the hegemony fleet. You want to kill every living thing in this system because you think organic life is contamination. But you know what? You're right about one thing. We are contamination. We're the kind of contamination that spreads, that survives, that fights back. And we're about to contaminate your entire fleet." Deep inside the hegemony ship, Adams and his team had reached the central computer core. The room was vast, filled with processing units that hummed with malevolent intelligence. Zelenara studied the alien technology with her enhanced analytical abilities. "This computer controls the entire ship," she said. "But more than that, it's connected to all the other ships in the fleet. If we can overload this system, we might be able to disable them all. How do we overload it?" Adams asked. Dr. Richardson's voice came through their communication system. "Troy, I've been studying the ship's energy patterns. The computer is designed to process information about organic life and classify it as contamination. But what if we gave it something it couldn't classify?" "What do you mean?" "Upload human and Zephyrian genetic data directly into the system, massive amounts of it. The computer will try to process it all, but it won't be able to understand the modified Zephyrians. They're part human, part Zephyrian, part something completely new. The computer will get stuck in an endless loop." Adams looked at Zelenara. "Can you do it?" "I can try. But I'll need to interface directly with the computer. The feedback could kill me." "No," Adams said firmly. "We find another way." "Commander Adams, my people are dying out there. This is what needs to be done." Zelenara placed her hands on the computer interface. "Besides, I am no longer fully Zephyrian. I am something new, something these machines cannot understand." The computer fought back as Zelenara uploaded the genetic data. Energy coursed through her body as the alien systems tried to process information that made no sense to them. The modified Zephyrians were an impossibility to the hegemony mind, a combination of species that should not exist. One by one, the hegemony ships began to shut down as their computers overloaded. Weapons stopped firing. Engines went silent. The ancient fleet that had awakened to complete their genocidal mission died in space, victims of their own inability to understand what life could become. But the victory came at a cost. Zelenara collapsed, her body burned by the energy feedback from the computer interface. Adams caught her as she fell, her breathing weak and irregular. "Did it work?" she whispered. "It worked," Adams said. "The fleet is dead. Your people are safe." "Good. That is what matters." 6 months later, The joint colony of New Veltar was established on Kepler 442b. The world was harsh and dangerous, with violent storms and predatory wildlife that would have terrified the original Zephyrians. But the modified survivors thrived there, their enhanced abilities allowing them to build cities in places where ordinary beings could not survive. Zelenara, now calling herself Zara in human tradition, served as the colony's first leader. She stood on the observation deck of the new capital city, watching human and Zephyrian children play together in the courtyard below. The children were the future, born from two species that had become something greater together. "Any regrets?" Captain Bennett asked, joining her at the window. "About what we became?" "No, we called for help from Deathworlders, and you answered. But you didn't conquer us or change us against our will. You gave us the choice to become something new, something that could survive. That is the greatest gift one species can give another." Bennett nodded. "The galaxy is watching what we're building here. Some are afraid of what humans and modified Zephyrians might do together. Others are hoping we'll answer their calls for help too. And will we? That's what Deathworlders do, Zara. We answer the call." In the years that followed, the story of New Veltar spread throughout the galaxy. The tale of how Earth's Deathworlders had saved a dying species, not through conquest, but through sacrifice and transformation. Other worlds in crisis began to send their own desperate messages toward the small colony on the galactic rim, hoping that the strange alliance of humans and modified Zephyrians might answer their calls for help. And they always did.